Call the Village of Johnsburg, August 19, 2025, regular night meeting of the President Board of Trustees at 7 p.m. On the roll, Trustee Morris. Here. Trustee Hagan. Here. Trustee Sylvanus. Here. Trustee Von Here. Trustee Falk. Here. Trustee Litz. Here. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. From the floor, Mr. Adams.
All right. So, most of you all know me. I was up there talking before. You'll have to forgive my mouth. I had some surgery. My tongue isn't working 100% yet. So,
You sound fine.
if you can't understand me, please let me know. So I'll start out with Mark Adams. I live 520 Ball Knob Road. As you know, we've come before this board and several committees in the past on multiple occasions with regard to complaints from the backyard bar and grill. In particular, we've talked about the noise level, and we've questioned the no outside entertainment permitted, except for 2 special events annually. At first, when we made these complaints, the police would come out and we would get told, you know what, the village is working on this. We've got, you know, there's some miscommunication, there's some ambiguity in the ordinances, and we're going to get this figured out and get it together. Well, I got to tell you, recently it appears this has all been taken care of. And I tell you that because we have one of the village police officers that has made a decision on how all this goes. And this particular officer has been out to my house, to our group, and actually to the bar in question, and has said, oh, you know what? You're A1, so you're allowed to have outside entertainment. Got news for you, that's not in there anywhere. But that was it. When I asked about the noise, the response I got was, well, you know what? I find it reasonable. I don't think it's a problem. Or the other one was, I'm exercising my discretion, and I'm not going to enforce it. And the last call I made, I was told by this officer that I am not going to write a violation to a bar playing a band outside in the middle of summer in the middle of the day. Not going to do it. She actually refused to come to my house where I made the call. She called me, and this is what I heard. I have the recording of it too, by the way. So let's be clear. Chapter 12, the nuisance clause. That applies to everyone. There is nowhere in that clause that says, I'm going to make an exception for bar owners, I'm going to make an exception for this, I'm going to make an exception for backyard bar and marina. It's not in there. That ordinance was written very specifically. It says, and I can read if you like, you've got it in front of you, but it was made to have specific criteria on that. 100 feet, I couldn't hear it 100 feet, and 70 decibel meter at the lot line. Now, we went back and forth for a long time. The village said, we don't even have decibel meters. What? They did. Anyway, this last time I called, I asked, did you bring the decibel meter? Nope, don't need to. Didn't even go pick it up. It's reasonable. Find that very interesting. So, I don't know what we need to do about that, but it seems to me that when these people wrote these ordinances, they were pretty clear. And it made it very specific for a reason, so that it was enforceable. And yet, it's not being enforced. So now let's talk about the other one. And this is 9.08 in liquor ordinance, about outside entertainment. So, starts right off in that section, says there's 3 classifications of liquor license, A, B, and C. A has 2. The only difference being A1 allows for outside serving. Now, there's a whole list that goes on and on about specific that have been met by the building code and what have you, which, by the way, haven't been at all at this location. But in the first section, it says clearly that outside entertainment is not permitted, with the exception of during Softenville one time and 2 times under special events. So the same officer has said to me, well, I don't see a band as being a special event. It clearly defines it as such in that first part. It's outside entertainment. How is that not clear? So it goes on to say, now, in section 10 of that same thing, it clearly states that they have to have the permit for special events. Again, this is not, I don't understand how you're not understanding this. And so then I've been told that, well, there's other things that say they can till 11 o'clock, that, well, yes, there is, okay? The 11 o'clock is the witching hour. Everything stops at 11 o'clock. There's no noise, there's nothing. It all stops at 11 o'clock. If they have an outside thing such as bags or horseshoes, that has to stop at 11 o'clock. But in every case, in every section of the entire ordinance, it says, when it mentions noise, shall not violate any other ordinance, which makes us full circle back to 12. So I'm here to tell you guys, I'm at a loss. I really, for the life of me, I don't understand how this has not been enforced. It seems to be really clear that we have everything. People on the ordinance made a great job. It's all here. Just enforce what's there. And if you want to change it, then go on and change it. But in the meantime, enforce what we have. That's all I have.
Mark? Roberta Miller?
Yep, I'm coming. Just a while. Do my best to stand. Well, good evening, Village Board members. My name is Roberta Miller, and I'm speaking on behalf of the majority of the people of Oakland Subdivision. We are united in strong opposition to the Hidden Harbor Development Project at 3309 Chapel Hill Road. Our town, Johnsburg, is known for its small-town character, its rural charm, and the sense of community that families here have built for decades. This project is not in alignment with that character. It is far too large in scale, and it threatens to overwhelm our neighborhood and some neighborhoods surrounding us. Our concerns are not minor inconveniences. They are serious issues of safety, quality of life, and preservation of our community. Emergency responders may not be able to reach our homes in time. Traffic flow at Chapel Hill and Salem will be dangerous and unmanageable, especially with the potential hundreds of extra cars and people milling around. The peace and safety of our children waiting for buses at the corner will be put at risk. Overflow parking and spillover curiosity from non-residents will invade the privacy of our subdivision and other neighborhoods. We respect that communities grow and change, but this particular development does not fit here. The large scale is problematic. It jeopardizes the safety, serenity, and character of Johnsburg. On behalf of the majority of the Oakland residents who I'm representing, I ask you to stand with us, protect our families, and consider rejecting this project. Johnsburg deserves thoughtful growth, not overdone development. And thank you for your time and for hearing the strong and united voices. Also, I'm really concerned about the noise. We live on the river. If you live on the river, it echoes at night. What time will these people stop? Are you going to have a noise ordinance? They have to stop at midnight? Do they have to stop at 11 o'clock? If not, and they're there during the week, it's going to disturb an awful lot of people that have to go to work. That noise, even from the boats, as this other gentleman has said, does wake you up during the nighttime. I know it's a privilege to live on the river, and you pay that price. However, it does get old after a while. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Gary Kanzler?
I want to follow up with Roberta. I am also a Oakland subdivision person. And I just look at the traffic issue of this. I read the brochure that was handed out originally, and they look at roughly 60 boat slips in the marina with 227 garages. So roughly 287 people could be coming up boating on a Sunday. So say only half of them come up. 140 people come up boating to their garages or their slips. Usually when someone goes out on their boat, they have a guest with them. So if the 140 people come up and their brother or friend comes up, we're going to have 280 cars at this hidden harbor. And with the brochure, I don't see a parking lot for 280 cars anywhere in here. I see a splash pad, a lighthouse, and an ice cream parlor, but not parking for 280 cars. And maybe I'm missing something, but when those 280 cars usually leave on Sunday, I'm guessing 4 to 6:30 when they're done boating, how are 280 cars going to pull out onto Salem, turning left or right? These are my major concerns. I think the only way this could possibly work is if there was other talk that if we, as a subdivision, come out onto Bay Road where there's a light, we would have to veer over. So that is just my main concern. I don't see a parking lot anywhere in here for all these cars, and I don't see how they're going to be leaving there safely on a Saturday or Sunday. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike Meritek.
Thank you, Ed. I'm here to talk about the gym, the gym addition that I think is going to be decided soon in the village. I just kindly ask that each of you as trustees maybe set aside all of the previous stuff or discussions that have occurred on this up to now that kind of got us where we're at today. And the only reason I say that is I know that some of you, our administrator, our village attorney, were present during the planning committee discussion last week, and they thoroughly vetted a lot of potential issues pertaining to the addition of the verbiage to the I-1 zoning to add gyms, fitness centers, and health clubs. The comments unanimously from that committee were very much supporting the idea of the gymnasium being in town, the value to the residents, the growth that occurred, the value that there's a woman-owned business there operating this, her success that has occurred. There was some discussions that occurred from a few of the people on the planning committee that, I want to see it, and they did, and came back and reported that they were very positively supportive now of the gymnasium because of the improvements that Jeff Elzer has put in there and the quality of the location. Even the one, so it was almost a unanimous vote to support it. There was one that didn't, but even that person admitted that the gym is a great idea, and he was maybe more concerned about the what-ifs that could occur down the road if someone else that had I-1 zoning wanted to put in a health club or put in a gymnasium. That was discussed. I wish at the time that I had done a little bit of research and had come up with some of the data that I'll share with you right now. I think that maybe would have addressed that planning commission's concern. So if I could just kind of pass it out. I pass it out for you to just look at. I'll give you a summary of it. But this is just 25 of about 100 that I found online of gym zoning locations in the surrounding areas that have either a commercial, industrial, or INC, which is, I'm not going to get this right, but it's incorporated into the municipality somehow. But sorry. So of the 25, and there were literally 100 that I could have brought in here tonight, but 15 towns and villages near us, which is on that list. There were 3 commercial zoning areas that have gymnasiums in that zoning, 10 industrial, and 12 that were incorporated into a municipality. So my point here is that this is something that is not new. In fact, a number of people, and I've experienced it, we take our kids to facilities, either training facilities outside of here, or one of the, Jim Barrett mentioned that he takes his daughters to cheerleading training facilities outside of here that are all in industrial areas. Very, very similar to what is going on here. One of the most powerful comment that was made during the planning meeting was maybe Mr. Bank. Very, very low risk. This is a low risk decision with a huge positive upside for the residents in the village and the person that is owning this property. I guess at the end, I respectfully. Oh, by the way, okay. I respectfully would like to ask all of you to, again, focus on the benefits of this decision to add the verbiage here that will hugely benefit the residents, the village, the owner, this who owns the business. She couldn't be here tonight, but she couldn't do this in McHenry because of the cost of that. It's something that I think Jeff and Jeff Elser has encouraged and wanted to do. It's not a moneymaker for Jeff. He could make more money doing something else with this, but he feels that this is great for the community, and it's great for her, and it's great for the residents, which it is. So again, if I could just respectfully ask that you focus on this decision. Will this gym and this wording bring benefits to the residents of the village, or with little risk of anything going forward, or not? Oh, by the way, I think it ties into the vision and mission statement that you published on your websites that talks about how important it is to have a positive community environment, and it really links nicely to what you have on Parks and Recreation, and ties in, I think, what Mr. Hederman and other previous trustees have encouraged, right? More sports, more biking and health-related things. It's a gymnasium, and I'm not sure how we could not want to support a gymnasium in our community. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, the ordinance committee is meeting on some of these ordinances, I think, right? Thursday, so I advise you to do that.
Actually, I want to give them to you, Mark. tomorrow if you're available. I want to talk to you.
I'm sorry?
If you're available tomorrow, I would like to talk to you.
All right, you have my phone number, don't you?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, give me a call.
And naturally, the Hidden Harbor thing isn't on the agenda tonight, but that will be, all those points have been considered. And will be considered in the future. I have a motion to approve the omnibus agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Sylvania, seconded by trustee Paul. Anything that anybody wants to get pulled? If there being none, any discussion on the motion? On the roll, trustee Morris, trustee Hagan, trustee Sylvanius,
Aye.
trustee Von Allmen, trustee Falk, and trustee
Aye.
Motion carried. On the president's report, September meeting dates, if everybody's okay with it, I'd like to make it the 9th and the 23rd due to the Labor Day conflicts. And we'll have no committee of the whole next week because of Labor Day weekend. Does anybody have a problem with that?
It's the 9th and 23rd.
Yes. September 9th, September 23rd. Probably be back to a cow meeting, but no cow next week because of the Labor Day weekend. And a lot of people are out of town.
We're going to do a board meeting and a cow meeting in the same week next.
We could do a cow meeting on the 23rd, but maybe we'll do the cow meeting. Yeah, otherwise we have two. If we're going to have, we'll schedule a cow meeting for that day too.
The same day?
Yeah.
The 23rd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we received a petition from the Oakland subdivision, and Rick's going to address the conversations that he's been involved in with McDOT and Hidden Harbor. That will answer probably some questions that are going on there. So we'll share the petition with you from the residents of Oakland subdivision. And Rick, you want to address the TIF things that have been...
Just to bring the board up to speed, I know I forwarded you guys a letter, and I'd be more than willing to answer questions. It was a very long meeting, and it was 2.5 hours. Basically, what we as the village tried to do was to bring the people together, which is Mr. Oliver, who is currently considering purchasing the property from the Akaris. The Akaris still own the property. And I believe that he has an option on the property that is coming up, whether or not he either has to buy it or not buy it. So about 2 years ago, he came to the village and he expressed interest in possibly building his Hidden Harbor development. At that time, the first thing that we as a village did was to tell him that before he did anything, he needed to talk to the McHenry County Highway Department because they controlled the road that was in front of that property, and that the village had no say in what McHenry County Highway Department was going to do to him for access to this development, no matter what was built there. It doesn't matter if he builds Hidden Harbor, housing, whatever, McHenry County Highway Department has total jurisdiction over that road. He has then since spent at least a year with first bi-weekly meetings, I think he's up to weekly meetings now, trying to secure an access point off of the highway into that development that is acceptable to McHenry County Highway Department. They are very close to allowing access to that development approximately across the street from the Charnbrook entrance off of Chapel Hill Road that would enter his property And then that is the axis they've been working on. It has widening of the road, deceleration lanes, sight lines are a big concern, and they are very close to actually getting that from a recommendation from McHenry County Highway Department to the village, to the county board, which has to okay it with their recommendation. The problem that has always been from the village position, because your village board has always told them from the beginning that if they tended to utilize Salem, that Salem Avenue had to remain a full access entrance, so that they could not do anything to the existing Salem that would interfere with the residents that have lived there for decades, many, many decades. To be perfectly honest, I think Mr. Oliver sort of kicked the can down the road. He did a lot of traffic studies, trying to prove to the county that there would be no impact with the cars using Salem Avenue to access his storage buildings off of Salem Avenue. Salem Avenue, the current right-of-way for Salem Avenue, the private road, goes through the Akari property. So the Akari property owns both sides of the road. Okay, so in a private road, basically, as all you know, that roadway can always be used as a roadway, but you have a lot of options of what you can do off of the private road that is in front of your house, because it's basically the subdivision's road. So, let me skip ahead. The village has always protected that, saying that we don't want the residents to be negatively impacted at all by your potential development. So it got down to the point where Mike was trying to argue with the county highway department that all of the cars, as you were talking about, all of the boat traffic, all of the RV traffic, and everything that he proposes to have access his buildings was going to have no impact at all on the existing Salem.
No way.
That was his. Now, to be fair, he spent a lot of money with professionals doing traffic studies, saying that the number of car count, because of the time of day, not during school time, everything else, would not impact it. He spent money doing that. I don't agree with it, but the most important thing is the county highway department said absolutely not.
Yes.
Okay? They said, if you are planning on any access at all off of Salem Avenue for anything, that Salem Avenue will become a right-in, right-out only. The village of Johnsburg told him in the beginning that that was totally unacceptable to the village of Johnsburg. Okay? So he finally accepted at that meeting that using the existing Salem for any access to his property is basically a non-starter. It's forbidden. Okay? So that currently is where we're at. The county gave him an option where is if, working with the village, they would reconstruct Salem Avenue so it would have access at the red light, and then it would basically, he would basically give up that right of way. We would have to work with existing landowners to acquire a different right of way, so that the village, so that the new Salem would basically come in. Again, this is very preliminary. Please don't take this as gospel. But the proposed new roadway would basically come in and enter the existing Salem in the S-turn, where the S-turn is, so that you come in and you basically then, so all of this would be before your subdivision. Okay, understand, I mean, I think Mrs. Miller might have a couple of very small sliver parcels there
Yes.
that we'd have to work with her on, but basically all of the residential lots, all of your lots and everything would be unaffected except for the buildings that he's going to construct. Okay, so the village has always tried to protect the integrity of your subdivision. Okay, so please don't think that the village is not your friend in this. We've always tried to do that. Mr. Oliver then has to reconfigure, if he chooses to move forward, he has to reconfigure his existing plan that he has brought to the village, which will basically entail him constructing, for all intents and purposes, a traffic circle, so that the cars utilizing his property will have to enter in his new entrance off of Charnbrook. Again, the road will be widened, it'll be much bigger and different than it is now, so it'll be accessible, the sight lines and everything should have minimum impact on the Salem traffic, because it'll all be down by Charnbrook. And it'll be wider so that you guys can see what's going on, but basically the traffic will be taken away from you and down by Charnbrook. And then the county proposed that he construct a frontage road that's basically parallels Chapel Hill that would allow his traffic to access his storage buildings until such a time as Salem is reconstructed. Okay? So that through all of this, you guys as residents would not be affected. Okay? So that's always been the village's goal, is to protect your subdivision. Mike was surprised that the county took that stance. I wasn't, and I've been trying to tell him for 2 years that he needed to work with them. And if he does this and tries to work with the village with this, there are several other hurdles that have nothing to do with your subdivision that he has to go through. One of which is he has to take the whole brand new plan, put it on paper, get it all engineered, make everything work for all the ordinance and everything else, and take it back to planning and zoning and start fresh. So all the hundreds of thousands of dollars he spent to this point, he's basically throwing away. He's going to have to start all over with a new plan and everything else. There is a question in his mind and his consultants' minds whether or not it's even doable because of the dollars involved in the project. Other besides that, it had nothing to do with you. Mike's plan, and he's adamant about this, as you saw in my last email, that he wants to have the road as not part of his development, but he wants the village to actually be in charge of building this new road, which then would become a public road and not a private road, and that the village would then have to float its own bond, and it would have to pledge the TIF money from justified by that development as the source of revenue to repay it. He then believes, in his own mind, according to the last email that I got home, which I shared with you guys, that he believes that you guys are okay with us not, the village, not receiving any money towards the repayment of the village's bond until he has recouped all of the money for his bond for building the development. That, in my opinion, is a non-deal, because there's no way in the world, if you take and you borrow, let's say, $5 million to build this road, and that's probably high, okay, and then you front load it with 18 years of interest, that's going to be like, I don't know, I'm guessing $30 million bond that the village 18 years from now is going to have to start repaying back from the TIF. I mean, I don't think it's doable, but that's up to the board.
Wait, Rick, you're saying he would not repay us for 18 years?
His proposal is he would not pay a dime. The village would not get a dime.
That was that 100% that he was talking about?
Yeah. The village would not get a dime of the TIF money until he had recouped all of the money he needs to build his park. That's what his term sheet that he proposed to you guys at the last meeting said. And that's why I had Claudette follow up and tell him that he needs to incorporate Michael's language in there that says at very least he should propose that the village gets its fair share of the TIF revenue every year. So if it's a $25 million bond and the village is worth $5 million, it's got a $5 million of the $25 million, they should at least get a fifth of the annual TIF payment, okay? At very least. And I think that's subject to discussion, but that's not really part of Mike's development. But that's, to be honest with you guys, that's why the village has always had a very low opinion about TIFs, okay? We've never had one before. The first one we ever had was the one on the apartment building where the old school was, and it Bush School, and it worked because that had a zero tax base, okay? And the village, the school district benefited the most, and the school district was the one who gave up supposedly the most because they did, but it was their property that funded their relief. This is a totally different situation. This is TIF money that is going to a for-profit development that will definitely fix a very blighted piece of property that's been in the village for decades. Without the TIF money, I doubt this development is financially viable. But then when you add the cost of the roadway in it and saying that the village does that on its own, I think we have to be very circumspect on how that TIF, if allowed, is structured. And I believe that Mr. Oliver, to be fair to him, he has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, according to him, and I believe it's possible with all his marketing stuff, on this project. He has not closed on the Akari parcel. The Akari is still on the property. But I think that if he is intending to go forward, that what this board needs to do is make him very aware of what the village of Johnsburg is going to accept and not accept. Okay? I believe the tone of that letter also threatened that if we weren't acceptable to his terms with the TIF, he was going to start removing public improvements that were going to benefit the village. I don't want to say Mike was confrontational, but Mike is looking at this in a dollar and cents situation. And, I look at this and I say, to me, the numbers don't work, never have. I've shared it with a couple other board members. And I just, I think you guys got to be very careful what you do with him. But I think we need to tell him what the village really expects him to do so he can make a reasoned decision of whether or not he wants to move ahead with this project. Okay, and I think everybody in this room from Oakland Subdivision realizes that this village board is very cognizant of the fact that you guys have lived there for over, I think it's been there over 100 years, hasn't it, Roberta?
Yes, sir.
And we all as a group are very interested in protecting your little area over there and not at least affect it as we can to this thing. Now, I think you all would like to see the junkyard cleaned up that's over there, okay? Several people over the decades I've been involved in the village have approached us with the development of that property, and every time the MCDOT access has been an issue, which is why I told him 2 years ago. I think he finally realizes that now. He left the meeting telling Claudette and I that this is the first time he ever heard that he couldn't use Salem. One thing that the guys should know about that came up in the discussion, on the one side of the road where the harbor and everything is on the existing Salem, he wanted to have access for all of those storage buildings only off of Salem. None of it was going to go off Charter. All of those big buildings, that was his proposal.
And there's 2 driveways he had.
Correct. And all of those buildings, he did not want those buildings to be coming through the people that own the
Condo garages.
the condo garages, yeah.
Dubs.
Yeah, he wanted to have a security gate there, so that the people that had spent the big money on the condo garages weren't affected by the Dubs traffic. Okay. On the other side of that road, on his property, he's also proposed, if you look on his plan, that there is basically a 20,000 square foot building for storage only, for use for only his employees, to ferry boats from that storage building for launching over in his marina, basically. That's his, like it's called Boathouse now. It's got the buildings where they ferry them across and they launch you for the in-out service. Okay, basically, from what he told us the other night, am I correct, Claudette? That's basically going to be his storage building for the in-out boats, isn't that what he said?
It's additional boat storage in one large facility.
Yeah, okay. One thing that he asked, and the county was agreeable to in principle, was that if he chose to utilize and put that building in now, before Salem Avenue is reconstructed, that the county would be agreeable, if the village was agreeable, to allow him access to cross Salem Road from one side to the other, but absolutely no traffic from any of that development could go in and out Salem Road. Okay? So, but that would be something that the village would have to okay. But since the county said, since there is absolutely $0 impact, zero traffic impact on the Salem Avenue, Chapel Hill Road intersection, that they really couldn't offer a negative impact to their roadway on a crossing instead of utilization. Okay? The only thing is, if that did happen, there'd have to be some sort of a huge fine or something if somebody utilized the road to actually access either of any of that property, because there would be a gate on both ends. There'd be a gate on the one side of the road, there'd be a gate on the other side of the road. Okay, and I just, people being people. I mean, we put like no left turn signs all over the place, and people still make left turns. Okay, but I think that if you guys were to allow that, I think there'd have to be a very stringent fine, and if somebody violated that it would be, there'd be a stick instead of a carrot. But he's got to go a long way to get to that point. At this point in time, he, I believe, is going back to the drawing board. I believe he's going to try to reconfigure this into such a way as he can make it work. He still has not gotten his final approval from the county on the Charnbrook deal. The county is bending over backwards trying to accommodate this development. Pam Eltoff was actually at the meeting for him, but she was very frank in telling him that, without McDOT's approval, the chance of getting it through the full McHenry County Board was slim to none. And Mike's traffic studies, basically, Daryl from the McHenry County Highway Department is actually a very reasonable guy, but his big concern over Salem is safety. It's not traffic count, okay? He's very worried about boats, pulling trailers, RVs, and everything else, trying to pull left turns or something in and out off of there. It doesn't work. The sight lines are terrible. It's dangerous. And he's afraid that without the county mandating right in, right out, that God forbid there's an accident. You know what I mean? So that's a non-starter with the county. That's not happening. And the village has said right in, right out is not an option for the village. So basically, if you're worried, at this point in time, if you're worried about the Salem Road, Chapel Hill Road intersection, it shouldn't change at all. Okay? That is as of the meeting we had last Tuesday.
Rick
So
is,
that is the newest information, and I will gladly answer any questions that you guys have, but that's where we're at with Mike. Yes, Scott?
have Hidden Harbor and their team responded to the HR Green bullet point ones that he was looking from, that was sent to us maybe a month ago?
Scott, I don't know. I honestly, to be honest with you, Mike left that meeting, I think, with his head spinning. I mean, he honestly looked like he was bewildered. He said, I've never heard this before. I can't believe this. I got to redo everything. So, you know, anything at all at this point, I think is premature, because I don't think he even in his own mind, he has a working plan.
So just to
Okay,
be clear,
because-
based on our last couple meetings, per his verbiage and his words, because that bond thing's new, that's kind of a big deal. He's going, like he said, he's going back to planning and zoning before he even comes to see us again. Is that where we're at?
Well,
Be clear.
okay, again, realizes that I only tried to guide him
Okay.
with Claudette and staff's help, okay? We told him that legally, that when you create a PUD, you guys vote on a PUD, piece of paper. It says, this is exactly what I'm going to build, and this is what we as a board are okay. Okay? If it changes 1 square inch of the plan, he's got to go back to planning and zoning to get it okay.
I just want to make sure.
Okay, so at this point in time, Mike, in his mind, after speaking with Daryl from McDOT, told him what he would accept and what he wouldn't accept. I believe the direction that Daryl gave him and that Claudette and I gave him was that we expected him to come back with a Plan A, which was the interim plan until such a time as Salem was reconfigured, and then a Plan B, which was the final plan once Salem was reconfigured, okay? Because I think that the village, if they allow him to do, let's say this temporary construction road where he utilizes his dub access paralleling Chapel Hill Road, I don't think any of you in your minds have an idea that that is going to be a permanent okay because of landscaping and all the rest of the stuff that you guys have asked me for. Okay? So this would be like Plan A to get to this, and then within X number of days of the time that the new Salem would get reconfigured, he would then have to remove the temporary stuff and go back to the final plan within a given period of time. That would be acceptable to the county, and hopefully that would be acceptable to the village, but once again, he'd have to start over with planning and zoning, and then come back to the board for final approval. The problem with this for Mike is, and this is a big thing for him, is he wants to go, because he's got this large expenditure if he purchases the Akari property, and once that happens, he needs to start turning dollars to make payments, okay? He still wants to do this in this calendar year, and I, looking at the calendar, say, I don't see how he's going to get it done, but that's nothing to do with the village. But he's very up on doing this quickly. Okay? So, you know, he's got, on the HR Green thing, Scott, I think that once the new proposal is put in, there'll be a bunch of other questions that staff has for him. Because right now, you know, he still wants to keep every one of his buildings, he still wants to keep everything as is when it's all done, once the new Salem is in. But then I think, you know, this board has got to look at whether or not that's a viable project for the village to do. Because, you know, who's the end benefit of it. I mean, the subdivision would probably like a red light going in and out. I can't see where they would be against better access, okay? But, you know, you've got the Shabillo parcel there, and you've got the Akari parcel there, but then the village board's got to understand, is that worth it enough to them to bond that road and to actually improve that road? It might be. I mean, I'm not saying it would be the wrong thing to do, but I think that's a decision that you guys haven't even considered yet. Am I correct?
I think we have. I think we've talked about that, correct?
Also, I suppose my concern, based on Mike's email, is that he is under the impression that we, the board, are okay with him getting first priority, right? We're okay with him getting 100%.
I don't think we ever decided that or said.
So I think there was misunderstanding at the end of that last meeting, and what he did, I think we even went person to person, and most people said they were okay with it. But again, I don't think they were, I think they were thinking it was something else.
I think we were saying that we had to get all these things like we're doing now out on the table for Mike, okay? When we left that meeting, we all agreed that we want to go forward and tell Mike what we want him to do. And that's what Rick is trying to do, is put all those things on the table so Mike knows exactly where he is on how to move forward, okay? And that's, I think, that we were asking the board, we like the project, but, you know, how you go about it is another thing. And we were never going to accept a right in and right out at Salem. I think that's been the million-dollar question that was put there since day one, when he first talked about it, was if they say right in, right out, you got to reconstruct Salem. And I think the other part of it is your concern that we're not going to wait, and that's what we're trying to do, get everything on the table. We can't afford to bond that road and wait 18 years to get the money.
But again, in the email specifically, that he says it specifically that, yes, you guys have already agreed to this, and he's not sure why it's being brought up again.
But we didn't agree to it.
Well, he thinks we have, right? So that's what I'm saying. I think that there's a disconnect between what we, the village board wants, and what Mike thinks that we want to see happen. So I think that's something that really needs to be clarified for him, because this whole project is kind of contingent.
That's what we're trying to do with all this explanation. Give it all to him saying, this is what has to happen. I think what we approved is that we don't object to him going forward with the TIF, but he has to understand he has to go back to planning and zoning so he can work on the TIF, correct, Counselor? But the language could change because your clause in there that if it's not approved, it doesn't work. So legally, I think I want to get so we have it all on the table for him of what, I think the disconnect is Mike didn't hear what we're saying. Okay? And so he assumed something like you're saying.
And that's fine. I just don't want him to continue to pursue the next step,
and that's,
thinking that that's what's going to happen.
That's what we're trying to get all that stuff
Right,
out.
and we're not supportive of that idea. Or maybe we are, I don't know, but
I think we're supportive of the project.
yeah, I'm saying specifically, the
bond.
first priority for the TIF.
The TIF
That he gets paid out all his money before the village can start to collect.
and the county's million-dollar question on the road.
Right.
Okay. Can I have one other question, one other comment about the TIF? Mike has come up with a consultant who is very reputable that says that the TIF is going to generate X number of dollars. You've all seen the study, okay? The number of dollars that he was requesting versus what his consultant said originally was probably well within the parameters of optimism versus pessimism, okay, over what real dollars were going to be involved. When you bring the Salem Avenue reconstruction into the total TIF dollars, I think we need to quantify, before we would go ahead with a TIF, exactly how many dollars would be needed to reconstruct Salem. There's a lot of unknowns with the reconstruction of Salem. There's a question whether or not there's wetlands that have to be mitigated. There's questions about ingress and egress. There's question about land acquisition. There's question about signalization, okay? We don't know if this is a $1 million road or a $10 million road. So if you guys are going to grant this TIF, and you know that he wants 17 million of it, and the TIF is only worth, at best, 25 million, what if you got $8 million left, you got a $10 million road? So the question becomes to me now is, does the board want to expend money hiring our engineers to throw a probable construction cost on the dollars it would take to reconstruct Salem that would keep the county and the village happy, so that we can quantify the number of dollars that would be needed to include in the TIF, and whether the TIF is capable of the dollar amount that he wants and the dollar amount that the village would need. Because I'm very concerned that we've thrown this TIF around, and my concern from the beginning was, okay, if the road's not in it, it's probably pretty safe, but you throw the road in it, we have absolutely no idea what we're committing to, and you know that the TIF is only going to be worth so much money. And then the question becomes, as you start bonding any project, the longer you bond the project, the more expensive the bond is. It's like a mortgage. A 30-year mortgage, you pay back 3 times what you borrow. Okay? Mike has predicated his TIF on the amount of money he needs to cash flow his project. That's how he came up with his 18-year TIF, because that payment would work with his payback for his bonding, for his financing of his project. Okay, it's his business decision. What I'm saying is this is going to be a TIF that's passed by the village, and I think a lot of considerations got to be made. Is what is the best TIF terms for the village and Mike? Because, you know, if we're going to throw our bond, which is a Johnsburg bond, it's going to be a Johnsburg road. Make no mistake about it. You're still going to pledge the TIF dollars as a repayment source, but that's your bond. Okay, that's not Mike's bond. And you know, if there's a default on the TIF money towards Hidden Harbor and that whole thing blows up, we're still going to be stuck with the TIF, our part of the TIF for the road. And I think those are just things that you as a board have got to consider, because it's a different animal when all of it was going to Hidden Harbor, but when he starts bringing municipal dollars into it, I get very cautious. That's just my counsel. Okay, the board can do whatever it wants, but I think it's important that I at least voice my concerns.
Any questions, gentlemen?
My only thing is, I think we need to give Mike a response.
That's the purpose of this all.
I mean, just specifically on that one thing, before anything else, because that, if he's banking on that and it's not going to happen, that may change his.
That's what we decided, I thought, at the last board meeting, that, you know, we got to be open, give them all the facts. So that's it.
So are you asking us if we support the village borrowing $5 million?
No,
Okay, because I don't support that.
we're not asking that.
Okay.
No.
Okay, well,
I just want to be clear, because I kind of agree now with
that's what Mike
Josh.
is expecting.
Because
Mike said, in no uncertain terms, after multiple questions, standing here, that is his expectation of the village of Johnsburg, is to pay for this road. And if we didn't, and he got anything less than 100% of the first priority dollars coming out of the TIF, it doesn't work for his numbers, and he can't move forward with the project. So that's why, again, I think that specific, I get all the other stuff. I mean, there's a lot of other information that we need to,
It's
keep
the
in
$1
communication
million
with him.
question, right?
But I think that one question is going to make a big difference to Mike. So I think, again, we need to respond to that one singular question to him, and then see where it goes from there.
He does say, he says, the majority of the village board agreed to the business point that Hidden Harbor would maintain first priority over TIF revenues as provided in the gap analysis. So just to Josh's point.
It
we
literally
took out a
points to
bond.
he gave us a link to the video where he gets that information.
So that, to Josh's point, he 100% thinks that a majority of us would vote for taking that bond out and then paying it back. He's first priority, he mentions it a few times in this email, he's first priority on TIF dollars, which is what we're saying we disagree with right now. But I will say that last meeting as we went through, and I think it was kind of unclear, we were going and asking each one, that's where a majority of us said, yes, we agree, but again, I don't think it was very clear on what we were agreeing on there.
I don't recall the bond even being brought up.
I don't
so,
know.
and that's new to me. So
It's in the email. He asked, if you look at it too, the board meeting's there in the hour 57 mark. It references it, so it'll be a refresher there. But yeah, he brought it up
You can
specifically.
watch the whole meeting on that YouTube and see what you're saying.
Yes, sir. Yeah. It's
Yeah, but again, as he's saying that, I'm like, well, yeah, if we're responsible for that, how are we going to pay for it? We don't have $5 million sitting around or whatever. So we got to come up with the money today. We're not going to get any money back for 18 years. But how are we going to come up with the money other than a bond? So again, that's my more immediate concern, is that we need to give Mike a response on that specific question. And everything else needs to continue to move along, depending on his response. But that question, I think, is a really, really big priority for tomorrow. I mean, again, that may be the end of it for his project. As I understand, he cannot accept anything less than 100%. First priority payout is how he explained it. And again, that he may be more willing to negotiate after that, but that is what he said, is 100% or nothing.
Okay, any more questions?
Can I ask a question?
No? Okay,
So can we,
it's really board discussion right
I know,
now.
but
The
I'm really-
hearing's been at the planning and zoning level.
Right.
Do you have something to this subject, or what is the
I
question?
think it would be great if we just bought the property and made it a nice public park for, like the Fox Lake had here, where they run around and they got the water park there and all that stuff. Let's build that over there.
It's a great idea, but that takes money
It's
also.
beautiful in Fox
That
Lake.
takes up money also.
He said he'll talk to you
Okay.
about selling the
That's
property
enough.
to you.
Let's stick to the subject there. Thank you. All right.
So,
So,
Rick,
yeah,
are you
again,
looking for a response?
I think we still need
To be
an
able to get
official
back to him?
response to give to Mike.
Rick?
In writing, yes.
Who do you want to talk to Mike? You want me to call him? But when I talk to him, I want to be speaking for the board, I don't want to be speaking for Rick. Or do you want somebody else to talk to Mike, or do you want to call Mike?
I think we have to agree on the response, and I think we do, correct? Before the response goes out, we should see it.
I think it's just simply that we are not
In favor.
agreeing to 100%. Right, and I think that's
That's the showstopper.
agreeable to everybody here, that can be passed along to Mike, right? That's, again, I think that's plenty of a response to focus on reactions.
All right. So does everybody in Oakland subdivision know what's going on back and forth?
Learned a lot tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay. New business. First read, no action.
I have one thing I need to do.
Oh, okay.
I would like the board to consider adding a resolution to the next board agenda for an RFP for staffing and operational analysis. So I created a document with a letter with some draft samples. So the purpose of the agenda item would be to request the village board approval to issue an RFP seeking professional consulting services to conduct the staffing and operational analysis of the village of Johnsburg. So that I feel like we could have a better idea, right, on our current staff levels and how efficient and effective that we are. So, I had these. There should be plenty. So I guess the question is, my request, does it have to be done in a motion, or?
Well, do we have consensus to put this on the next agenda?
I think we would want a consensus, can't motion tonight.
No, I just mean to add it to the agenda.
It would have to be on the next agenda if we had, it's the first time we've seen this.
Yes, I just brought it
So to add
tonight.
it, I don't know if we want to, or if we want to look at this before we add it to the agenda.
So the first one is my letter essentially to the board. And you can see I've attached a draft resolution, a draft RFP, and a draft public notice, none of which can't be changed. But I think that, I think this would be a good exercise. I know that there's a cost that would have to be considered, but I think the RFP can be done. And if there are proposals that are returned to the village, obviously costs would be, the price of that report would be included in that return. So essentially, other than some time, and maybe if we're required to, that public notice might cost, I don't know.
Can I ask maybe a dumb question?
Yeah.
So we've had, I don't know if it's the same thing as like what we've done. Is this to hire someone that would come in and like evaluate your, almost like your business and give you a report back on what they think you should do?
That's
not a permanent person. It's like a consultant that comes in and says, okay, yeah, we've done that. And they give you a report like, you guys do this great, you might need help here, you might, okay.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
I would be supportive of putting it on the agenda.
Me too.
You said you too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, I mean, we get to see what it costs and stuff first before we approve it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think
Yeah, this would just.
what you want to do is read about this, read this.
Yeah, I'd like to read it.
We would have to go out. You got to read it. I think what Keith's asking is to put it on the agenda to consider.
That's all I'm asking. It's just to put it on, and then it's in resolution form, so it would just be a motion and a second with discussion, and we can amend it however, if the other.
Oh, yeah, we'd have a first read on it,
Yep.
and then the second read, and like we always do.
Right. And then even the RFP, when it gets returned, there's, again, no cost, right? I mean, and if they come in at $1 million to do an analysis, obviously I would not be supportive of that anyway.
Trustee Von Allen would donate the $1,000.
Got to sell a lot of grouper.
I would have, or I would have to die first.
It can be arranged.
Then Cheryl will be right about your bench. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything else from anybody under new business that they want to bring that's not on the agenda?
I mean, I guess I could tell you what's on celebration, but.
Timmy?
This year's celebration of the park, Saturday, October 4th, 5 p.m., Hiller Park. We'll have the local sports and school clubs having their food and drink options. The Lions Club, we have a very nice band again for entertainment, and followed by a fireworks show, and then games and activities for kids of all ages. So put that on your calendar and hope to see you there.
October 4th, right?
October 4th, yeah, we moved it back to the original, so.
What time?
It starts at 5, Hiller Park.
So the donation requests went out, so that's good.
Okay, yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
There's a clerical error date on that donation letter. It did reference Saturday, but it states not October 1st.
It's dated Wednesday.
I think for a rough Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, first read, no action, move to approve the agreement between Jack Vending Machines and Village of Johnsburg for vending services at Hill Park and Somerset Memorial Park. Okay. No action, discussion. Is everybody familiar what has been?
Michael, you reviewed?
I did. And myself, the staff, Vinny, what we worked on were several modifications to SAM, including but not limited to some clarification language, and then two, I don't think that the village has had the opportunity to work on, to enter into a contract where the profit or the rental that would be going to the village would be based on just a general formula of here's what our expenses are. It's very open-ended. There is no formula saying here's what those expenses are. I think that there was a little bit of apprehension about that, given that we haven't done that before and it's ambiguous. I think the second thing was, my understanding was that we didn't have another template or another example in another municipality to show this is how it's worked, and more particularly, here's what the rentals were that were paid to the municipality. So what I encourage the village staff to consider, that I think ended up in the contract before you, is, given those concerns, I wanted the village to have the ability to terminate this agreement on relatively short notice if it turns out that the village is dissatisfied with the amount of the profits going to the village. So if an important part of this contract is these expenses offsetting the amount that would go to the village, okay, if we can't objectify that, if we can't put limitations on that, if we can't make it a formula, then at least give the village the opportunity to exit the contract if it so chooses. So I think that's why I think that we ended up with a 30-day termination provision. It may have been longer in the original proposal, but my thought would be that would allow the village to exit the contract if it were dissatisfied with it.
Did we have any kind of estimated income from that? Was that supplied to us?
No.
So I can give you a formula, and I don't know if that was in your attachment, page 2, page 3, in regards to, he said his profit for purchasing the product was roughly around 70 cents for sport drinks, as an example. And then if it was $2,000, he anticipated a monthly fee for restocking of approximately $100. That's why it was ambiguous, as he's referencing. And then he explained that 15% of the $1,200 profit, which would be the rental fee that he would present to the village of Johnsburg. So that was his quick, down and dirty formula as the attachment supporting the contract, as we requested, not once, not twice, but 3 times, a breakdown analysis of what we would be presenting.
I know from day one when this came up,
Yes.
do we have any idea, okay, we have a summer like this, what it costs to run these machines?
I did not. That was recently brought up to me in regards to refreshing my memory, that I did not pull the kilowatts, what it would require to run a compressor in the different element climates. So I do not know the electricity that would be drawing upon our panel to operate that and what that cost associated with is. I will work on that though, so you have a full
I
understanding.
think we want to
of
know
what you're
that
asking
if
for.
we're getting percentage back and it's costing us more to run than we're getting.
It's been identified to them from the beginning that all electrical service will be totally their responsibility.
How are you
What
going to do
that
that?
number is.
What does that mean, remetering? Putting a meter for those machines? Electric service for just those machines?
Well, I feel comfortable that I said that statement from the very get-go, as I had concerns with electrical and the upgrades required to it, but I will refresh that memory before this goes before action, and I'll give you a summary formula, as we've done something similar with solar panels, using that algorithm process. I'll just have to figure out what the compressor of the vending machine will draw upon. Plus or minus a percentage, because not every vending machine is the same.
Correct.
Vinny, does this vendor have machines, or does this company have them within the area?
No.
No. Who is it? Who's the other?
Jack vending machine is Jack Jr. Jorth. It's Jack and Christine Jorth. H-J-O-R-T-H.
The realtor in town?
Yeah, that's Josh and Christine and their son Jackson. So I think it's also important to note that, like, it's a young entrepreneur in Johnsburg. So I think that, whatever we can do to, and I know like you mentioned, third, fourth, fifth request. So
They have a lawyer involved, so I mean,
yeah,
I get it.
yeah. So I think just those are good conversations and good process to have with them.
Yeah, no, by the Moose over there.
Township?
Yeah. I think they have, them. We might be able to get some information.
Who came up with the 15% of net profit?
They did.
Is it them?
So their net profit, right, they broke down stipulations of what they define as net profit, right? Restocking, supply material,
Why
depreciation.
wouldn't we just take off the gross, a smaller percentage? That's much easier.
From the start, the 15% was what they wanted to give, and then now I'm sure with the additional cost of diving into the details of things, now it's hard to say what it'll
Well, and again, who's going to audit their books?
Right.
How are we?
Yeah, well,
Yes, they're supposed to supply us with reports. We did provide them a Pepsi vending machine contract, which was clear as day, right? You get 30 cents for every product we sell. That was super simple.
Yeah, I feel like we should try to figure out something a little simpler.
As long as it doesn't cost us money, I still think it's a good thing. Especially because the two locations will benefit by having Hayward Park and Sunnyside being utilized the way they are. It would be nice to have a vending machine there with Gatorade,
Yeah,
pop
I
water,
agree.
snacks. So as long as it doesn't, that's why, your question's important. I know they're responsible for all the electrical hookup and everything, right? But the running it, that's all.
I just wanted
they're
to
not
make
gonna
sure it
get-
doesn't cost us money, because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
understand.
think it should cost us money.
They're not going to get their own bill.
Well,
Right.
that's what we're asking.
But that would require a whole another meter.
Yes, it would.
So that's what I'm saying. I feel like we're really diving into it.
All I'm saying is, how do we know it's not going to cost us money?
Yeah, well, that's again,
If we're getting something to make it simpler, where we can take so much out of it, I'm all for that, but I'd like to know, when you get 190 and 100 degrees weather, what it's going to cost us to run it, just so we're breaking a little more than even.
I agree. But again, I just think that the net profit calculation is going to be difficult. I think that we should look at either, again, a smaller percentage with gross that we will anticipate will include the cost of electricity.
Is there any other,
Or per unit cost.
any other villages or something that we know that is in an agreement like that for vending machines?
So I found some other examples that I provided them from college campuses, sports arenas, things of that nature. I gave them 3 examples when we first had this discussion. They presented their write-up. I'm okay with going back to the table and going off a gross, or here's your monthly fee. That just seems
I
simple.
think that may be a lot safer.
The monthly fee, but then again, sometimes a year, there's probably six months out of the year where there's not very much activity going on the vending machine.
I mean, they will be outside.
Outside.
Yes.
Can't run them.
They're all under the pavilion.
Well, you can run, I think you can run them in the winter.
Can you?
Some of them are, it's like a refrigerator that you have outside, they freeze off. So,
Yeah, they're year round.
But
Walmart
then-
has the year round ones.
then the activity you have there in the winter isn't going to be a lot.
Yeah, right.
You have a lot of vandalism.
So we're not responsible for that.
That was in that agreement.
I know.
The Google says, just as an example, and now it's gone. Pretty sure it said $350 to $450 expected. No, annually. To run them? Yeah.
Per machine?
Probably per machine, yes.
Well, that's not bad.
It literally was here. It showed it to me and then left it. Yeah.
Okay. Then whatever you can figure out for us.
For clarification, or go back to the drawing board on that?
I don't know if we have to start all over, but we do have an idea of what it costs per machine.
Okay.
So maybe we come up with something with their projection. Is that going to cover the cost of? I think everybody thinks it's maybe a good idea to have it there, but I don't think we want to pay for their business venture. That's what we've been saying here all along.
Message received.
Agree with
You're talking
that?
about instead of doing a percentage, you almost want to enter a contract. Like, let's say, some snowplow companies, you pay by the inch, or you pay by the timeout, or you pay, so you could have let's say they charge you $5,000 to plow your lot for the whole winter. It only snowed twice, they make out. Let's say there's a blizzard every other day, then the plowing company doesn't make out. If you charge them a fee, like Josh said, flat rate, maybe there's times when it's a little hotter, it's a little cooler, and at the end, it all washes out.
In the winter, they don't have the sales, in the summer they do, but the hotter months are paid for by the cooler months.
Might be easier than a percentage. I mean, because from the start, that was their idea to give back to the village. And so now, obviously, as you get into the details of it, it seems very difficult, right? Would it be easier in a contract if it was like, hey, you pay $100 a month?
Well, here's the thing. I think the village would be more comfortable with an objective formula, a fee. Something that you can just look at, here's the units, something objective. The thing with the formula right now is, I think this was the classic thing to rob musicians of their money in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Wait a minute, I had a concert. Yeah, but there were a lot of expenses. Well, what are they? It's very complicated. And what I don't see is, as in terms of efficiency, is this would be different maybe if it was a Walmart-sized operation. It's not. I don't see the village wanting to spend time or effort on this to audit this.
Right.
So the thing is, yes, would I prefer an objective formula? Yes, especially when we don't have an example of, yeah, this is done in Mundelein, here's what the electric cost is, here's what the revenue is, everyone makes out a mutually beneficial way. We don't have that example here. So yes, would I like clarification with respect to electricity? Would I like to see a more simplified objective formula? Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yes, Ray.
I just, when I was on the board when we built the pavilions, according to what Michael just said, the discussion at board level at that point in time was we gave a lot of consideration to be able to provide the amenities to the residents that were utilizing the park, and that the village did not want to be involved in the maintenance, the machines, stocking machines, everything to go with the machines. So it was more about finding somebody who would provide the service versus how much money we could make from people utilizing the service. So just that was the mindset when we first started, and it was more important that the residents had a vending machine to use. And I'm just telling you, that's how the initial discussion was, and that goes along with Michael's pointing out. That was the most important thing. It wasn't about generating money from the village. It was for providing service to the residents. Just something to think about.
But if somebody else is profiting from it, then it just should be no cost, at least, at the very least.
Exactly, and they made it sound like it was a donation to the village. It's not a donation. They're making money off it. Then we should at least cover it's not a donation, let's face it. They're making money off it. Unless they want to donate everything to the village, then we're in. So I think Michael's got a good idea. We research what it costs to run them and make sure we're covered. And whatever they, keep it simple. Thanks. Keep it simple. Any other discussion on the vending machine? Another first read, ordinance 25-26-11, amending section 11, business district use chart, adding health club, gymnasiums, and fitness club as permitted uses in the I-1 industrial zoning district of the Johnsburg zoning ordinance. So it's first read also. So questions, any discussion?
Am I correct that that's the only I-1 property in Johnsburg?
I believe so, yes.
I just want to clarify.
So we have no other properties that could switch or request I-1 going to a B1? That's what you're saying? This is the only one? Are these guys here?
Presently,
Okay. I guess I'm looking for 3 years down the road, if we approve what they're asking for and
the repercussions.
there's a concern somewhere else on another I-1 piece of property, or somebody wants to expand something that we're not comfortable with putting there, that's all. But if they're the only one, okay.
Any other questions?
No, the only comment I'll have is that this document Mike created for these gyms, I did the same thing and did find so many of them in iZone.
I use them. I've used them. I've used them for my kids, myself. I mean, they're all over. Yeah. I mean, it's probably, he did 25, probably could have found 100 of them.
Yeah.
And I think who's running it too, I mean, it's outside, you know, I know it's Jeff, Clay, I know it's their business, but Drea, just as a person, the community benefit, like, to me, it's I know we have to look into it first read and all that, but to me, it is a huge community benefit, right? With, I know, like the kids program they run there, again, who Drea is as a person, the impact that she has as a female business owner locally, right? I think they check a lot of boxes for things that we want to be involved with in Johnsburg.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they change the zoning then?
But
To a B1 versus, what's it, I1?
because the owners of the property want, if for whatever reason the gym didn't work out, they still want to be able to utilize it to manufacture pallets, if that's, you know, if that's the
So
case of it.
if it is an I1 right now, there's possible construction being done there. What about the safety issue with the people in the gyms?
They're not doing construction.
But he wants to keep it, possibly doing construction.
If the gym was a fail. Right, so the gym wouldn't move out of there, right?
So he's not going to do any construction whatsoever while the gym is in that place.
I don't believe so. We could add, he's right here, we could ask him, but there's no. Everything is done next to him while the gym is there.
No, I'm just trying to, I mean, we have I-1 for a reason, or we did at one point.
Retainer.
Okay, some of the questions that I have, when that parcel was for sale, other people did look at that parcel, and were told that they can't do exactly what he's doing. Okay, now he has purchased that, and I'm not being mean, I'm just restating what was said before. He comes before us after talking to people that run this village, Vinny and Claudette, and they told him he could not do that in an I-1, okay? And he did it anyway. He came before the board and said, I'm throwing myself on the board. I gave the okay to do it. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm just looking at everything that has gone into this. And with him just deciding on his own, I don't care what they say, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Okay, so I do have a problem.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
I never had any intention of going around the board. I came to the board from day one. The application is probably sitting on her desk still before the gym even opened. I was sold a piece of property that was Flex Industrial. I put Flex Business in there, I put two businesses in there.
But it's not
because I understand that now. I learned a lot through this process, right? Like, I've never had to go to, a village. In buying a property, I've never, I guess, researched that enough, and, this was a shocker to me. She already was building out the gym, it didn't open yet, I came here, I was presented with, hey, this all goes away, go B1 zoning, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what it meant. I was like, great, yeah, this is fine, we can go B1, I don't even know. So we leave, and after we research it, we're like, hold on, I can't go B1 zoning. That doesn't work for my business. If somebody breaks their leg in the gym and the thing gets sued and it closes in 2 months, I can't do anything that relates to my business there anymore. Once I go down from my zoning, I can never go back. So,
no, I understand.
So I never intentionally, I never went around the village. I do things by the book. I don't I've been here since day one fighting this fight. I think you know that I've been to this meeting
No,
several
you've been
times.
here before.
And you know what? This is my last possible ditch effort to allow her to keep this gym in this community because I believe in the gym. Was to go for a tax amendment because it's not unusual. Look around at every township surrounding us. I go to a CrossFit gym for 10 years now. It just so happens to be in Spring Grove. It's 4 minutes from here. It's zoned industrial. And that's in McHenry County and 4 minutes from here. So it's not this unusual ask. I said that if that gym is not allowed and it's absolutely a no from both boards, yeah, I'm going to manufacture pallets there. That's what I do for a living. I'm going to recycle.
I think what we...
Mr. Morris, it was never the intention to just still let the gym operate against you guys' will. It was a holding pattern between the vote. And we're here now today, a year later, still in a holding pattern. Trying to figure out what is the ruling.
Okay, let's get back to discussion about the board, because I think there's other questions. I see where Jamie's going. I appreciate the input, but we've been through the hearing process. We've heard it all already. Mike, what is your concern?
So when I read this, what I want to do is look at this that's been brought up, this sheet here, and take Mr. Elsner and Pallet Partners out of it, take how the transition with the sale of the property and the emotion of do something, ask, forget it. That's happened to us a ton of times. Take that
that's
out
why
of it.
I'm bringing it up.
Right. But let's take that out of it because then that might skew. If you're asking me if I want to allow someone, whether it's him or anybody else, to put a health club, gym, fitness club in an I-1 industrial zone, I'm saying yes. So if it's not him, if it's someone else comes in there and wants to do that, I want that. Right, but let's make the decision based on that and not what had happened to get to this spot. Is what I'm trying to remove that part of it in my head. And just say that I would like to see that kind of stuff in I-1.
I agree with Mike, and it reminds me of the heliport, right? When people used to be able to land their helicopters in their yard, right? And so then the board had to address it.
That was the chief that addressed it.
But we didn't want people landing their helicopters in their yards, right? And so the board had to, I don't know if that was a text amendment, but we had to create, and if you look at the sheet, I saw it tonight, right, heliport, right, and it's not allowed in our district, just like this. We're saying, where was that supposed to go up to tonight? Or 3 weeks from now?
Okay. I think, okay, I see what you're saying, I see what Jamie's saying, okay, but does the current property, size, everything meet I-1 zoning? Does it meet the I-1 zoning?
No, because it's what, 1.6 acres currently? Something like that.
But
So
it's
it's
existing.
under, and it was grandfathered in, I can understand.
I understand that, but now we're saying we're going to make a conditional use on something that doesn't even meet the I-1 zoning. So I
No, it's not
don't know if
conditional use. It's a text amendment.
permitted use. Okay.
It's a text amendment. It has nothing to do with my building at all.
Okay, so we're still asking for something that doesn't meet the conditions of the present I-1 zoning, correct?
But that was the previous board's decision to make.
It is I. He's got, it's I
It
already.
was to give them I.
Yeah.
No, the county gave them
County birthright.
The county gave them I.
Well, we brought
County
that
did.
in.
And it's not, and we brought it up in whatever the zoning had at that point. We brought it in as that. But now we're changing uses. So if you're changing uses, we go through this all the time. You got to meet the new regulations of what is there. And I'll tell you the other thing that concerns me, and it's nothing against anybody, so don't take it like it is, but when the building, with the variance was granted to Radicon for that building, it was granted because everything was supposed to be inside. Okay? Now we have, and if I'm not speaking correctly, we have stuff outside, not everything inside. Everything was granted under the use that when we granted that variance, that everything would be inside. So if we're going to consider this at all, I would like to see that we follow that variance and everything gets put inside, okay, like the variance was granted, not outside,
That variance is for the accessory building,
for the accessory building.
but I zoning allows for outside storage of business property.
But you're changing the use in I
We're not changing the zoning.
Well, that's what we're saying. If it doesn't meet the criteria of I zoning,
But it doesn't matter because it's already I zoning.
it does matter. It does matter.
But, okay, I mean, you can feel that way, but it doesn't when he purchased. And maybe I'm incorrect, and Michael, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you buy it with a particular zoning, it doesn't automatically change at that time if the purchaser doesn't want to change the zoning.
The variance was granted. That's what we have to consider.
Yeah, I would agree that the zoning continues with a purchase. We had this issue a couple of weeks ago with Hidden Harbor with the suggestion that, I believe the attorney represented that, gee, the zoning doesn't run with the land. It does. You know, unless there's a request. So I think earlier there was a question about, can someone petition for a change in zoning? Yes, of course, to any classification. Whether that's persuasive or not to the board, that's another issue. But the zoning that was put in place, there's been no change. The owner can petition for change. Technically, the village can petition for a change, but it's I-1 zoning, is my understanding.
It was brought into the village from the county. The I-1 zoning.
You know, two, you know, whatever the representations that were made about that's relevant to us, I don't think that's part of the analysis here tonight. You know, Jeff may have an issue with respect to whoever represented him, who made that representation, but I think that's irrelevant to our analysis. And yeah, I mean, with respect to the variance, I saw the minutes. I understand what the allusion is to in terms of storage. And there is storage going on at the property, correct? Outside?
Like, what do you mean, like my trailers?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're my personal trailers registered with the state on my property. Yes, and they're neatly organized, and they're not out in front in the parking lot. They are adjacent to my building or behind my building with the same screen that was granted to the parking interest.
So
the variance that was granted means nothing. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think
the storage is supposed to be inside.
I think the frustration may be that the representation that was made to this board, I wasn't at the meeting, but I reviewed the minutes. The representation was made that, yes, the understanding is that with that variance, the storage goes inside the accessory building.
Okay.
Not parking, I'm not talking about that.
No, not parking, the storage.
Yeah. I mean, can I have my personal trailers on my property? Is that acceptable there? Which is completely, has nothing to do with what's being asked this evening, but...
I thought we were just adding the gym thing.
That's all, this is all,
That's
so...
really
That's the issue before the board.
Yeah.
My concern down the line is that we're in another situation of, and I'm not saying it's a junkyard yet, and there was something that might not be while you're there. The same thing that I expressed to Sean O'Brien with this building. I'm not concerned what he's doing. I'm concerned what, if it sells it, he sells it and something happens there, what happens after he's there? Jeff might do a very good job at keeping it neat, okay? My concern is that if he sells it, the next guy, if we're going to allow outside storage, you know, maybe it's not part of the question. I'm showing you what my concerns are, okay? Because we've gone through this with other things, and I can mention a few of them, 3 of them. One is pending and one, you know, okay, I understand the nature of the business, but there's places where, you know, automotive, you have to have cars there and stuff, but when we have automotive stuff that's, don't move, the cars sit there forever. I get it. It's off the question here of what he's asking for, but my concern is creating another problem down the road. You get what I mean? With all these things that, okay, he's got it outside. If it's supposed to be inside, then let's say it's going to go inside, and if we want to say, okay, so we're not back here, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to let him do that in that use, well, let's just make it clear that we want the stuff inside at the same time. So we're not creating, keep going down the line with all these things coming back where, okay, you know, that's supposed to be inside, but it's outside.
But that's not the question at hand.
I know it's not the question.
So we can't, how can we answer a question that we're not?
I'm just pointing that out as part of it.
There's a million what-ifs.
It's board discussion, Mike, sorry. I'll let you speak on it, let's, you know.
I thought because I spoke that I had the right to speak even more. Do I not?
No, when it goes into board discussion, we usually try to keep it board discussion.
Okay.
If something comes up and, you know, you really have something that's going to be different than what you already said, go ahead and do it. But if it's something...
It is going to be different.
But if it's something that has been thrown out there a million times, that doesn't help us decide. Okay? So go ahead.
Please. So there's, anyone could come up with a million what-ifs to anything that's ever discussed. In this case, what's on the table tonight is whether a gymnasium added to the I-1 zone.
I understand that.
So the probability is what I think of the likelihood of a decision tonight on adding a gymnasium, fitness center, etc., is really what the focus should be. It's hard to try to correct things that have occurred in the past with this particular thing.
I get it, but we've gone through this a million times because we've let something like this and not looked at what's happening. I know what the decision request is tonight. I get it, okay? And I appreciate your input. But my concern is nothing against these gentlemen. My concern is, does it meet the current I-1 provisions, because it's change of ownership, and usually when it changes ownership, yeah, the zoning goes with the land, but when you change uses, you usually have to meet the current requirements of I-2.
So I appreciate your, I appreciate your opinion. I appreciate that. This planning committee vetted, and Michael was there, Claudette was there, thoroughly vetted every single concern that they had, including some of the things that you're mentioning.
I know they did, and I listened to it.
I'm sorry?
I listened to it.
Right. So if you did, then you're very much aware that they did what this village board expects that planning committee board to do. And they did it in, I thought, they did their diligence, and they truly did.
And anytime we would decide against them, because they're the front lines there of the firing board, I think we owe them an explanation of why we didn't do what they unanimously voted on. It was 5-1, if I'm not mistaken. So I listened to it. I understand that they vetted it. That's all great. And I get your concern about, you could say, what if, what if, what if? I understand that too, Mike, but it's like we keep getting ourselves into these situations, and I've been through it at least 5 times, and I don't want to go there again and have legal battles and all this other stuff, when it was my understanding that they agreed even to change the zoning to let that business in there. But, so anyways, we can go back and forth on that.
Yeah, appreciate your comments. Again, I'll focus back what I said earlier, right? This is about a gymnasium, being gymnasium, a fitness center, or health club.
I get it.
Being added to I-1 zoning, there's only one. Is it risky? Is it positive? Is it great? I think the trustees need to make that decision.
I agree with you 100%. And they're all entitled to their opinion, and I'm just trying to avoid a problem down the line. That's it.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Can I ask Jeff real quick? You had stated in the P&Z meeting that if the gymnasium wasn't approved, that you would start manufacturing pallets at the site. Now, I'm assuming you're going to have ingress and egress of semis for lumber and built pallets, leaving the business, also stored on site. Am I correct in saying all these things? Or?
If I go down that route, I don't know if I'm going to make it crazy.
No, I'm just going by what was said in the
But yes, probably because of the size of that property, it's most likely going to be box trucks, flatbeds.
Well, is the question, Jeff, Scott's question is that you would consider doing that, you think?
Yeah, 100%. If I have to, I mean, it's my business, it's what I do for a living. It's 100x more profitable than what the gym is. But I believe in the gym. It's great for the community. That's why I'm fighting for it.
Okay.
So actually, I have a couple more, and I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Currently, and once again, I'm not opposed to the gym. I'm really not. I'm looking at it just purely the questions I've come up with. How many people do you currently have in that business besides the gym?
We have 3 office girls, myself, which is there probably half the week, Clay in and out, another owner, and we have a couple like flex sales guys. One guy hasn't been to the office in 4 months. The other guy was sitting right here, Johnsburg guy, we just hired. He's training right now, so he's in the office, but he'll be on the road most of the time.
Okay. And how many people are in the gym at one time?
Only 10 plus the coach.
So 11 people is the max that you're going to have in there at any time?
10 people plus a coach that coaches every single class. It's not like Lifetime Fitness or Planet Fitness. These are 5 classes a day, 1 hour a day with a coach.
Okay. Are there showers in the gym or anything? Nothing like that? Okay. I have not been there, so I'm just...
You're welcome to stop by anytime. I'd be happy to show it to you too.
Okay.
There were no structural improvements done. That's what's nice about these CrossFit gym stuff. They don't need all the aesthetics. A little paint on the wall and some rubber mats on the floor and your lifting equipment is all you need for these type of gyms. It's kind of just like tumbling gyms and things like that. You really don't need much except for...
Okay. There would be no manufacturing there during...
No, I don't have the room for it.
Okay. I'm sorry. With these people, so there's about 20 people a day, max, correct? With somewhere around. Is the septic system able to sustain that?
Yeah, I actually had Rachel Septic.
No, that's fine. I'm just asking questions because it was never meant for a bigger group of people. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, actually, we haven't, believe it or not, the apartments actually had a lot more office space. We actually, they had multiple cubicles, and then throughout the building, there were multiple offices stacked everywhere upstairs, because they were running multiple businesses out of there.
Additionally, Mr. Morris, 2 out of the 5 or 2 out of the 6 class periods of the day, our employees and us are not at the building.
That's a very good point.
No, I just asked some questions.
3 of the classes were.
3?
Yeah. The morning classes and evening classes.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Discussion? Okay. Keith?
Motion to adjourn.
We're not there yet.
Oh. You said my name and looked at me.
Okay. There's no unfinished business. Mike? spoke his piece about the celebration of the park. Everybody's got it on the calendar. Now, Keith,
Motion to adjourn.
the motion to adjourn, second.
I'll second.
On the roll, trustee Morris. Trustee Hagan, trustee Sylvain, trustee Allen, trustee Paul.
Aye.
And trustee. Aye.
I saw it, spring roll.